Could the Rebel Alliance's fleet at Endor defeat the Metroid equivalent of the Death Star? We find out today on today's episode of The Lore Raiders Sci-Fi Battles. Hello and welcome back to The Lore Raider. When thinking about sci-fi faction battles, this one was one that immediately came to mind. As many of you know, at the end of Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, the Rebel Alliance make a huge push to destroy the second Death Star and effectively end the Galactic Civil War. Meanwhile, in Metroid, we have the space pirates enter the Death Star, the deadly Doomseye superweapon, and scenario was set. Could the Rebels pull off their miracle victory against the space pirates? For the rules, this of course is set in the Metroid universe, where the Rebels would invade the Bermuda system, in which they would have to deactivate the cloaking devices concealing the Doomseye on planets Talvania, Bion, and Excelsion, before finally taking down the massive superweapon. The Rebels will have their entire Endor force, including the likes of Han Solo, Princess Leia Organa, and of course, Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. The pirates, meanwhile, get their forces during the events of Metroid Prime Federation Force, including the likes of Pinball Samus. For scaling purposes, dimensionality will be equalized as it keeps things fair. Let's start out with an analysis of the Rebel fleet at Endor and discuss their forces in closer detail, and we will be using Star Wars' canon information here. But the Rebels came with at least 5 MC-80 Liberty-type Heavy Star Cruisers, at least 4 MC-80A Home 1 type Heavy Star Cruisers, at least 10 other Mon Calamari Star Cruisers, at least 10 EF-76 Nebulon B escort frigates, 4 DP-20 frigates, at least 8 CR-90 corvettes, at least 4 Braha Tok class gunships, 10 X-4 gunships, at least 16 GR-75 medium transports, 1 VCX-100 light freighter, the Millennium Falcon of course, the A/SF-01 B-Wing starfighter, the BTL-A4 Y-Wing assault fighter / bombers, RZ-1 A-Wing interceptors, UT-60D U-Wing starfighter / support craft, T-65B X-Wing starfighters, and finally 2 Lambda-class T-4A shuttles. Clearly quite the fleet was assembled, although you likely notice that aside from the huge Mon Calamari cruisers, the Rebel fleet is largely made up of smaller frigates and starfighters, which of course makes sense given their hit-and-run approach during the war. As for ground troops, the Rebels had a considerably smaller force than you might have expected, as the Endor Strike Force, consisting of the likes of Han Solo, Leia Organa, and an elderly Commander Rex, among others, only actually numbered about 16 fighters altogether, including C-3PO and R2-D2, and in this timeline there are no friendly teddy bears to come to the rescue. Still, the Rebels' greatest asset was no doubt Episode 6 Luke Skywalker, who scales well above Jedi Fallen Order Darth Vader, who displays multi-continental power by holding back an entire planet's oceans. By comparison, we do not get exact numbers for the space pirate presence in the system, except that just by proxy of playing the game, we know that there are hundreds of them. In the battle you are seeing on screen alone, the space pirate menace on this one platform is already more numerous than the Endor strike team. The space pirates are well entrenched, especially on Talvania, as they operate numerous weapons production factories, each protected by a force field, and what's more, each space pirate is absolutely enormous, being said to be the size of an Omega pirate due to their use of the ancient Bion technology. For comparison's sake, this is the size of an Omega pirate next to the 6'3" Samus Aran. Finally, the space pirates even have their own Metroid cloning operation, creating the enormous Talvanian Metroid variants. What's more, on the ground, the pirates could field the lightly armed pirate dropships, the speedy and well-armored pirate warships, the missile transport ships as well as their elite variants. During the final battle against the Doomseye, the pirates fielded at least 16 more pirate warships, the Doomseye itself, as well as having dozens, likely hundreds more pirates aboard the Doomseye itself, including the jetpack-wielding elite pirates. The pirates also have access to the mind-controlled giant Samus Aran, as well as the leader of their army, Master Brain. Although the Doomsday itself is hidden by 3 cloaking devices that render the vessel completely invisible unless destroyed. With the armies laid out, does the alliance to restore the Republic really have a chance? No. And that is because the Rebel Alliance fleet was built to destroy what they thought was an inoperable Death Star 2 and not an entrenched army. Let's lay out every obstacle the Rebels would have to face to even have a chance at a fair space battle. Their little team of 16 will have to storm 3 planets, which is already nearly impossible. Excelsior in the ice world is not just cold, it's Metroid cold. For reference, even children in Metroid could survive on a world literally frozen over after its nearby star was, well, frozen solid. And yet Excelsior is so cold the Federation outright abandoned the facility there. Okay, but what about Bion? Well, the complete opposite problem, as Bion is considered an unbearably hot, lava-ridden hellscape of a world. Okay, what about Talvania? Oh, that planet? That planet is completely polluted in a wasteland ridden with chemical waste and electromagnetic storms. And this is the least of the Rebels' concerns, as the planets are absolutely ridden with dangerous and vicious wildlife, such as Talvania's ancient security bots and Excelsion's ice titans, which are even larger than the mech suits the Federation force wear, which again are the size of the aforementioned Omega Pirates that tower over Samus. This isn't even mentioning the space pirate menace on the ground, as the Rebels would have to somehow survive these enormous space pirates bearing down on them from all sides. Pirates who massively upscale from baseline civilian humans who can take a ginormous bomb being dropped on their heads. Even if we somehow ignore that and took the battle to space, the results aren't looking good. The Rebel ships certainly have an overall advantage when it comes to tonnage with their Mon Calamari cruisers, as well as sheer numbers, but that is where it ends, as whilst even at best, Star Wars ships take anywhere from hours to months to get from one planet to another, Metroid ships are fast enough to travel between galaxies in mere seconds, and can map out an entire galaxy in the space of a conversation. Despite the size difference, Star Wars ships' turbo lasers, whilst powerful enough to crumble buildings per shot, are far inferior to Metroid ships, scaling to missiles, which are stated to wipe out entire countries off the map. And it is this kind of firepower that the Doomseye deflector shield is managing to block with ease. Then there is the powerful Doomseye itself, which unlike the Death Star 2, which can one-shot a single ship at a time, the Doomseye can one-shot a whole cluster of ships with its powerful piercing laser, being stated to have one-shot 90% of the Federation fleet. By nearly every metric, the Rebel Alliance, if not outright losing the space battle, is at very least going to have to lose a lot more resources than the space pirates, and the pirates are guaranteed at least a single shot of their laser cannon. Okay, you may be saying, so what? Luke Skywalker can simply board the Doomseye and shut down the deflector shield. Well, for that to happen, Luke would have to somehow get aboard the Doomseye and get through the deflector shield, which doesn't allow ships to pass. But let's say he did. Well, then he had to fight through dozens and dozens of enormous space pirates and space pirate elites. But even if he could do all of those things, he would then have to battle Pinball Samus Aran, who, not only thanks to the amplification beam, entirely dwarfs even the enormous Federation Force mech suits. Regardless if you pick the multi-continental canon Luke or the planet-level Legends Luke, or you just want to equalize it out, this Samus is far stronger than a nearly dead Dark Samus who tanked the implosion of the Dark Aether Dimension, which is a parallel universe to the normal universe, which in Metroid is infinitely large. Not to mention Samus can both perceive and battle ghosts, as well as enter the afterlife, which is beyond space and time, which is immeasurable speed. If you want more information, check out these videos, for example. To keep it brief, Luke gets completely and literally steamrolled in this fight, and it just isn't close. When it is all said and done, the Rebel Alliance simply cannot recreate their fluke victory at Endor. The pirates are too strong, the environments are too deadly, and their own forces are too few in number. I declare the Space Pirates the winner.